Hi, Pastor Mike here of Christ Church Gilgal in New York. How did we wind up with the Bible anyway? This is really a question of canon. C-A-N-O-N. The word canon means measuring stick or rule. Now, the Old Testament canon was agreed upon by 72 Jewish rabbis and scholars who translated what we call the Septuagint. Now, the Septuagint was done at the behest of Alexander the Great in around the 2nd century. He wanted a translation of the Hebrew Scriptures from the Hebrew into Greek. And so they got together and they agreed in the city of Alexandria, and they created this translation. They translated the 39 books of the Old Testament and the Apocrypha. Now, the apocryphal books were considered valuable as historical studies, but they weren't regarded as authoritative nor as inspired as the 39 books of the Old Testament. Now, the New Testament canon is a little more complex. First of all, the New Testament was written much, much faster than the Old Testament, within 50 years or so from the time of Jesus, and certainly within the lifetime of the apostles. The early church fathers began forming a canon. Clement of Rome, for example, had 8 New Testament books, and he was around AD 95. Polycarp, a disciple of John in AD 108, he put out a list of about 15 books. A man named Ignatius of Antioch came up with 7 books in AD 115. And then Irenaeus, who was a student of Polycarp, a student of John, he came up with 21 books in AD 185. And finally, we have Hippolytus. He came up with a list of 22 books, and he was around somewhere between AD 170 to 235. Now, the first canon was called the Muratorian Canon, and it was compiled in AD 170. It included all the New Testament books except Hebrews, James, 1st and 2nd Peter, and 3rd John. At the Council of Laodicea in AD 363, this included all of the Old Testament books plus one of the Apocryphal books, and all the New Testament books except the book of Revelation. They said that these books were okay to read in churches. The book of Revelation was included in the Council of Hippo in AD 393, and then finally the canon was confirmed at the Council of Carthage in AD 397. They listed 3 criteria, roughly speaking, to be included in the canon. Number 1, a New Testament book had to be of apostolic origin, meaning one of the apostles or a close associate of the apostles, such as Luke, had to write the book. Secondly, it had to have doctrinal consistency. It couldn't be introducing foreign material, foreign ideas into the New Testament. Finally, it had to be received and recognized by the churches as authoritative. This meant all the churches across the Roman Empire everywhere had to agree these books belong in the canon. Those books that didn't make that list were left out. That does not mean they're not necessarily inspired. It means that they didn't fit the standard by which inspiration and revelation can be measured. And that's really what we have in the Bible, the understanding of how things can be measured to know whether or not something is inspired and is from God. Until next time, happy reading.